Hey everyone, this is Louis7 and I am streaming The Lord of the Rings Online. Very exciting. This is my first time really diving deep into the Update 37 beta, which includes a whole lot of different things. In fact, I have a whole window prepared for this. And basically, there is the stat squish, which I believe is pretty much just the stat squish at this point, because there were also going to be what I was calling a stat revamp, but never got around to making a video and bringing that up and discussing my thoughts on that. Otherwise, we have the Guardian revamp here, and then the Beorning revamp, and then we have the Forester event, and I think potentially some previews of the crafting revamp, but that's really something for me to investigate. I know we do have notes on what the crafting revamp will look like, at least their current plans, and then the updated LOTRO store, which is in game already. We also have Lindelby housing and River Hobbits. So today's focus is, I have a little bit limited time, partially just because of the time of day it is for me, but I'm going to focus here on the little bit on the stat squish if we get time, but 2 class updates and potentially Lindelby housing, as well as the Forester event. Going to try to fit that all in with about 2.5 hour time frame. So I'll go ahead and close that out and get back to managing the stream. I also have to turn my monitor brightness up. There we go. So now I can see the game, and importantly, we can see the Beorning revamp. So I actually already pushed the button on accident to spec into the red line because I think I just was looking at the traits very briefly. I honestly don't remember much of what I looked at, but a lot of the Beorning revamp here is going to be pretty fresh to me, and I accidentally went to the wrong one, which would be either spec'd for blue, is what I actually used to have it as blue, or yellow is what I tended to swap my red and yellow because I played blue the most on my Beorning. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what the Beorning revamp, how it actually plays, because reading the notes, there were a lot of things that I was in favor of with the revamp, and even some of the updates since some of their more initial plans with that. So I'm excited to dive into that and actually get into a little bit of gameplay with this character. So I'm skimming the notes right now myself, but I'm probably not going to get too much into that for the sake of the stream and just focusing actually what is on game rather than reading the whole list of changes there. But there is a lot going on with the Beorning. I think from a baseline level, tanking was buffed. They have some new things. Red line was buffed, and they have some new things. And yellow line that's the one I've paid the least attention to, partially because I play it the least. But I think they've reworked some things a little bit, perhaps slightly reduced their support impact, and reduced some of their raid-wide healing and convert it to fellowship-wide healing, and things like that, I believe. And yes, we have cats are back. Also, new cat cam positioning. Try to move my laptop out of the way. There we go. If there is a cat actually in it, hopefully it is improved, because it's a lot easier for me to just have the camera where it is positioned instead of on a random box. It should be a better viewing of the cats, I would hope. It's the whole point of the cat cam, of course. But anyway, we can get hopefully to the game if this cat, they get out of my way. Apparently my cats really miss me streaming. That's pretty much how it's going now, and they're probably getting a bunch of cat fur in my drink. All right, but yeah, now that they've settled down, you can see cat 1, cat 2. But yeah, I think I'll go ahead and maybe go ahead and get into some redline gameplay, because I think that's what I'm most excited for, even though currently I prefer both, in the current non-boar Beorning class, I prefer a blue line and yellow line over red line, but I feel like I should enjoy red line a lot more with some changes. So hopefully these changes actually make it so that red line perhaps could be my new favorite Beorning spec. Okay, so first off, in the first row, it looks pretty similar with increased damage and crit chance. I honestly can't remember if the crit chance was a trait before, because the building process for the old redline Beorning was very straightforward, and that you basically spent the minimum you needed in redline, and depending if you wanted support, you'd go deep into yellow line, or if you wanted more damage focus, you could go deeper into, or go like moderately into blue line. Why only 2 cats? That is a great question. I'll try to ask these cats to get me more cats. Sometimes 2 is hard enough to manage, but I wouldn't be opposed to more cats. Anyway, we do get a new ability, so I think there are 2 new abilities that we will need to look at, which is Trample and Nature's Wrath. There might be even more. Actually, there are a couple more that are involved with Execute. I really hope the Execute actually flows well. And there's one thing that I do have to point out, one negative thing that I actually remember, and this is one of the things I did give a little preview of, just to get in my mind kind of how it works. They really are pigeonholing you into the 75 to 80 Wrath being the optimal for you to both stay at and use your Wrath consumers. That seems a little, I don't know, something I don't really like, that very specific amount of Wrath that you have to be at to get maximum crit chance it is with Wrathful. You can see that with cat cam, right? Okay. I think I slightly changed the cat cam so it's like a little bit different size than it used to be. So it's just making sure the icons there, tooltips, default placement I have for those is still visible. I think if I have like 2 pieces of armor or something, that is when it could become an issue. I could always crop. Yeah, I actually should crop that because that's basically... Oh, wrong one. Hold up. Stream management in the middle of a stream. Oop. There we go. That should maybe be a little bit better, hopefully. And then what else? What was I doing? Oh yeah, actually speccing into Redline. So I assume we'll want 3 full points in that, getting 15% damage. Honestly, these numbers are going to mean nothing to me right now, so we'll just put points and stuff that sounds good to improve our damage to start and see where that leaves us. I assume we'll definitely want crit chance. I assume we'll want thrash damage, assuming that actually gives us some meaningful damage. And then bleed damage up to 25%. We also get slash giving the tearing bleed. And then trample is going to be another one of the new abilities. I don't think I mentioned Nature's Wrath is short cooldown. And yeah, just a short cooldown Wrath Adder. Another Wrath Adder. I'm surprised there aren't more Wrath consumers. Maybe they really do want to focus you on using Execute rather than other abilities to consume Wrath. Cattail in my face. So then improve trample. Trample says that it is, here, the icon for trample, the tooltip I mean, says that you lower the defenses of your foes with a forceful attack, except it does not lower defenses until you get improved trample. So I don't know if that's something that is a bug, but added spaceline level, it does not actually lower the defenses. You have to get, it's kind of like a lot of the Guardian ones. I don't think I would call it fix this stuff for the Redline Guardian, but say improved the building process of the Redline Guardian. I don't think they did much of that, but we'll see when we get to that class. Okay, so what is that cat doing? Don't know, just acting weird. There was a buzzing noise coming from my speaker, and that is, I think, because, well, yeah, it was plugged in. Anyway, back to building. Lumber, that one is one I potentially wouldn't want anymore. I think it used to be a completely filler trait because there was nothing else worthwhile putting in for. Also for Slam, I don't know if that would actually be worth putting in. It does look like you get the outgoing damage debuff for a little bit support aspect with that. Just raw melee damage. And then Bee Swarm, you do get increased Bee Swarm damage with this. Before you didn't pick that just for this Nair potency, but could be worth considering now for the Bee Swarm damage. Bee Form, that could be a whole other class in LOTRO. Jared, you are wondering what I am most excited for about Update 37. It's interesting you asked that because I recently made a poll on my channel that you may have actually seen. And it will take me just a second to pull it up here. Get that there. Community. And this should work. Wow, it does work. Wonderful. So I made a poll here that about like, okay, I can't move that, but I can move this. There we go. I made a poll here about what are you most excited for in LOTRO's update 37, and there are 5 options here. The lowest by far is actually Lindelby housing. I was kind of surprised with that. I also expected a slightly lower number with the River Hobbits. But then class updates, unfortunately, I couldn't split Beorning and Guardian revamp because you can only put 5 questions in the poll, or 5 options. And then stat squish got its portion of votes with about 1/5. And then a little bit lower than 1/5 with crafting updates and events. So it's a pretty decent spread, but the majority here are going with class updates for what they are most excited for. And I think for me, we don't, as far as I know, don't really see a lot of the crafting updates, and I expect more of that to be after update 37. But again, we will see when the full update comes out and perhaps in more beta rounds. But stat squish, the stat squish alone shouldn't impact gameplay too much, but it does appear that it actually will impact lower level gameplay because they are reworking the scaling between different level ranges with the stat squish, so that could actually have some good impact on gameplay. But I think for me, given both the Beorning and Guardian revamps, I would have to say class updates for myself. I was about to totally close that, and I do not need to. I just need to get it out of my way. So yeah, in short, I think I would go with the class updates. Of the class updates, I definitely would say Beorning for me is more exciting than the Guardian update, though. We'll see if that holds true. Also, this is a really interesting branch that I don't think I've seen one like this in any other class trait trees, where you have Execute unlock Moment of Opportunity, which unlocks Savage Knockdown here, but also in the final row, it unlocks Final Strike, and Redline Beorning has 4 traits in its final row. That is kind of crazy. I don't know, do all classes have 2? I think that used to be the case that they all had 2. Originally, they all had 1, and then I think some point later they were updated to each have 2. But with recent class updates, I can't think of another one that actually has more than 2. Guardian could potentially. Haven't gotten to that one yet. But then getting back to the actual traits here, though, Moment of Opportunity increases the damage of finishers. But the big thing that unlocks is, of course, 2 more finishers, Savage Knockdown being the AoE knockdown, and then Final Strike being an AoE more damage attack. Blood Prize, you can get up to 50% increased bleed damage. So the first rank in that technically gives you 10%, but I find it really funny that the base buff gives you 0% increased bleed damage. It does give you 5 wrath, so it technically has an effect. But yeah, you can get up to 50% increased bleed damage with that. It's got decent uptime. A little bit under a 4th, between a 4th and a 5th. I think that's my monitor stand on the left that is squeaking. It's kind of bothering me, but hopefully you all don't hear it. Turn the Tides used to put 1 point in this to get the better corruption removal, not necessarily the damage, although brief look at the numbers, the damage might not be terrible on the corruption removal effect now. Especially if you do remove 3 corruptions, could be interesting choice. Definitely good for corruption removal, though, to get that to remove 3 instead of 1. I think this it only removes 1. Oh, it removes 1 tier of up to 3 different corruptions, and then I guess this one would remove similar, or does it remove all tiers? Probably not all tiers. Either way, I'll ignore that for now. I don't plan to deal with too much corruptions today. Call to Wild, another cooldown ability. And then Composure, the self-heal is actually at the end of the trait tree, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. That's something I would usually pick and probably go ahead and go with this character. Also, what landscape difficulty? I'm on tier 3, so that'll be good to test. Actually, can just go for actual, like, real landscape content. Wells of Langflood, I could go to Sundergrot area or somewhere to get some gameplay. Again, like open world, real landscape gameplay instead of target dummy or missions or something. But yeah, that seems to be a fairly baseline build of, we'll definitely get Bee Swarm or Bee Sting, whatever it's called. Bee Swarm, increased damage on that. And then for yellow line, I'm not too wow, 1,000 fate. Is that a lot? That appears to be a lot after the revamp, but I do not know. I also don't, I think with the Beorning revamp and the Guardian, they reverted the stat rework that was going on. So I think this is all normal as we're used to, and fate will give us a whole bunch of different things. So that could be something to consider for a stat jump. Oh, also debilitating bees here. Definitely would want that for the debuff. And then I am not too sure for like further support. We could get something like Nature Salve. That would be a self-heal option. It's not really a strong self-heal though. But if you needed more survivability with your red line Beorning. Shake Free is another one. I think if I had the trait points, is one I would pick for, again, more survivability. So this increases the morale of your target. We won't have Mark of Grimbeorn, but this could be a solo, or like a just self-heal that adds 20 wrath, man form. Otherwise, for survivability, of course, you have options in the blue line here. I think Recuperate, it looks like, is actually very early in the blue line now. You also have just for straight vitality, you could get that, and Claw Swipe area effect damage. I would guess that I'd want plain melee damage before something like Claw Swipe area effect damage. Alright, so without corruption removals, this would probably be my baseline build. Again, not 100% sure on Slam. That would, of course, be a good support option, but I'm not too sure I really want that minus 10% outgoing damage effect at this point. So Hearten, yes. Hearten give Wrath over time, and then we can probably get Claw Swipe damage. Might be worth, yeah, 1 point in Nature's Bounty is probably good, because you get that huge vitality boost just from the 1 point, that's pretty considerable actually for my character. And then Recuperate can give us a good self-heal, and the bear form restores quite a bit of morale over time as well. That's going to be over 10% of my total morale from that one ability on a 3-second cooldown, so that is actually fairly impressive. And then otherwise in the blue line, probably go for more Claw Swipe damage. I don't know if this actually impacts the bleed damage, so I would need... Here, let's see, at this level, let's go ahead and apply the traits because we'll get a whole bunch of things, but we do get a bleed for Claw Swipe being in the red line with a set bonus. So it's kind of like the old blue line version of Claw Swipe. But what I wanted to test is putting 1 more point in that. Does not impact the bleed damage. I didn't think it would, and that's probably not really worth getting that just for more damage, so I'll put my points there, and whatever that one is, Nature's Bounty for more vitality for this character, and then we can increase the heal of Recuperate, or we can get Rending Blow. We probably want Rending Blow and Armor Crush down here. So Armor Crush will give increased incoming damage, and of course support our damage goal with this character. 3 points in that, and that spends all my trait points. Of course, a max level character has more trait points, and you would be able to get different things than this character has. Again, this is not necessarily a build. I'm kind of just getting a build for this character to get some sort of gameplay and just test out how the red Beorning feels. And my cat just jumped for me. But this seems kind of like what I would build for this character for just leveling to 140, really. That would be the goal of this character with further gameplay. Also, Ferocious Roar, it seems like they did preserve the Ferocious Roar Brutal Maul combo, so I assume that will do tons of damage for us. In fact, there is a great place to test that. Fornost, Wraith of Water, not Earth. And I can't travel because I'm in Beorning Hoos. That's okay. I believe I should have the travel. I should have the travel tab, whatever it is, in Wells of Blowing Flood on this character. If I don't, then yeah, that would be my fault for missing it. In Phoenix, it looks like Kat Templeton and Jared helped with your question. With the 1 bag, you can drag the inventory slots after going into edit mode here. And then for the server, the one I'm playing on right now is, of course, the Boar beta server, but I normally play on Lindelby. Okay, so I still want to test the... There we go. I still want to test perhaps a little bit longer gameplay than I could get on landscape. In particular, what would happen if I don't need to use Blood Prize because that increases bleed damage, but Call to Wild gives me 30% increased melee damage, and then I could use Ferocious Roar, get the guaranteed crit. Let me build some Wrath in the meantime. Okay, so we're going to pull this guy and use that, and this old combo. See how much damage it does. Yeah, it's taking about 11-12k on the crits, but I still have to actually fight the mob, so we'll see. No idea what any of these things do. So I actually do have Execute, which is really weird to me. And then I think, oh, hold up, something is not working as I thought it did. Okay, so I thought Execute unlocked your chance to use, like, just unlocked a use of Savage Knockdown and Final Strike, but maybe that's not the case. Okay, so I think Execute is just another finisher. So there are 3 different finishers that you have. I was thinking that Execute unlocked the ability to just freely use Savage Knockdown and Final Strike, but that does not appear to be the case. I also will say my character handled that quite handily, that's what I was going to say, but he managed it quite well. Okay, so what's this one? Trample, that is going to be one of our debuffs. That is a bear form ability, and the Nature's Wrath is another bear form ability. So these are both just straight up damagers. Thrash does a lot more damage than Nature's Wrath and Trample, it looks like. So these are kind of fillers, I would guess. It says it gains a substantial amount of Wrath, but it's only like 5 more than Thrash. Kind of interesting. And then the 2 Roar abilities, probably don't need to use those 2 frequently. Although Vigilant Roar just does damage. It doesn't appear to actually taunt the enemy, which could be nice. Grizzly Cry costs Wrath. Okay, this is actually going to be a challenge for me to organize my character's abilities, because I really do like having 4 abilities here, and then have my bear form and man form swap on 5. You can actually swap with abilities like Thrash and oh yeah, and you can use Expose in bear form. I have to fix that. There are a lot of things I need to do to fix this character, basically. Oh, only giving myself basically 2 more hours to play today. I think I could spend all 2.5 hours setting up my Beorning, and a good chunk of that just with Redline. But yeah, with the Expose, generally, unless you're in a group with a whole lot of tactical classes, generally you'd want to use that in bear form. But I like having the ability kind of in the same spot no matter what form I'm in, which would move it to 3 here. But I don't know that I quite want that. That could go on the shift bar, because it is a both form ability, and I like my both form abilities to be on the shift bar, but that would shift everything here by 1, which is okay. That might be more of a problem with blue line Beorning, where it won't even come up. Okay, Call to Wild is going to be an any form buff, so we'll move that to the shift bar. Both of these are man form, so I'll keep them there. Blood Prize is man form as well. Serrated Edge definitely still has an impressive bleed, it looks like. That was something I was worried about. Slam actually does quite a bit of damage. Server size have much to do with lag, or is it game-wide? I think a mixture of both. From what I hear, the more populated servers tend to be more laggy, and that's also been my experience. Like, if you're on a server, like perhaps Treebeard is probably really low population now, I would expect that one to have less lag than pretty much all the normal servers. But yeah, I think I'll just kind of... Oh, this kind of messes things up too, though. Now I only have 3 abilities here in man form. And then in bear form, oh, we have final strike. Okay, so, oh, armor crush. That's a bear form only ability. See, I have so many bear form abilities now. Okay, I'll have F2, F3, F4 be my final attacks. Sure, F1 can be recuperate. That's actually not too bad. It doesn't look like the heal can stack. For some reason, I thought in the old blue line you could stack it. But still, that's a easy way to heal up. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of work, basically, for me to get a somewhat optimal setup for my ability bars. So I think... Oh, accidentally used my Ferocious Roar. I don't know if Hearten consumes the buff from that. It looks like it did, because I'm not critting on every attack here. I think I need to, like, eventually... Wait, why can't I use... Oh, Claw Swipe consumes Wrath, that's right. And then Bash, I think, will also consume Wrath. Okay. It's probably not the best idea to get the flow of gameplay in an instance like this, but the longer fights actually does give me a little bit of time to try to remember what my abilities do. Okay, so with that bleed, I probably should have used Blood Prize before I actually used that bleed, but I'll use a couple more bleeds here as well. Okay, so I have a bunch of Wrath. F4 is going to be the just AoE attack. Let's make F2 the AoE attack. F2 is the single target attack. F3 is AoE, and then Savage Knockdown is the AoE knockdown. Let's try the knockdown here. So that's what storing a whole bunch of Wrath gets you. Not too bad. Especially now that you're not as motivated to stay at really high Wrath as you were before. It does look like you build Wrath quite a bit faster in main form. I wonder if the idea is at basically every 30 seconds you use a finisher. One thing I did not see, because I just didn't pay attention to it, is if all the finishers share the same cooldown. So that's actually something I can test. I won't use the Brutal Maul combo, but I'm just going to see if all of these share the same cooldown here. They do not, so I could theoretically just build enough Wrath real quick and go ahead and just use the other finisher. See how that would work. There we go, now I have the AoE knockdown. Of course I'm dying because I was just testing stuff there, but good to know. So far I actually really like the gameplay a whole lot more than before. It does not take long to notice the improvements, which I think is a really good thing. It's just going to, for me, take a lot of play time to get used to having basically, what, like 3 or 4 times, probably not 4 times as many abilities, but 2 to 3 times, more than 2 times the abilities in bear form than we used to, and having, yeah, a lot more abilities, more cooldowns, a little bit different mechanics and the such. I was wondering why I was doing so little damage compared to the instance and I'm only fighting greenies, but that is because I do have landscape difficulty enabled. Which is actually a good point to point out that I would actually pick this trait point with landscape difficulty, this trait, to get that effect. But yeah, I think to just out of concern for the time, I'll go ahead and swap potentially, I don't know how much I'll do with yellow line, but I'll go ahead and set up a blue line build here. And see what I can gather from the changes here. So we'll probably spend area of effect damage, increased cooldown, taunt enemies. I assume you would want that if you want the taunt, but if you don't want the taunt, getting the increased cooldown would not be worth it. And group content, of course, the taunt probably would become useful. So it looks like for this, increases your evade rating, and then when you evade an attack, you get increased incoming healing for 12 seconds. Normally, I wouldn't be the, say, biggest fan of an evade trait like that. Probably worth going ahead and getting 1 point in that guy. But that one actually has an interesting enough effect, and hey, at least it's very flavorful. So that's one we'll probably be putting points in. Again, this is a relatively solo-oriented build. For group content tanking, would probably consider some of these other traits, especially depending what type of content I was running and who I was running with. Ferocious Roar increased max morale, even though I thought Ferocious Roar they were making usable in any form. That could be something later in the blue line, but oh yeah, there it is, Ferocious Roar any form. But I was going to say, that means you would have to switch to man form to use that, but it looks like we will want that effect, and then we can get one trait now for both physical and tactical mitigation. That's much more increased quality of life, player friendly thing there. If I remember correctly, a lot of boss attacks and the such aren't actually impacted by the increased attack duration, but regular mobs are. And then Thorned Armor here. This is a cooldown ability. 10-second duration. Whole lot of effects here, but it reflects damage, makes you immune to combat states, and increases threat. Kind of interesting. Eventually get a hugely reduced cooldown down to 55 seconds. And you get stronger buff from it. Thunderous Roar, the big AoE force taunt. Hello, is that LMC? I think. And then Nature's Fury, another cooldown ability. They're really working to solve the old Beorning's weaknesses. Thickened Hide greatly reduces incoming damage and increases threat. That's something I noticed with a lot of the Beorning things here. A lot of them increase threat. All three of these cooldowns, actually. But then Nature's Fury. This one brings Nature's Fury to your enemies, so it increases evade chance to 100%, you become immune to combat states, and you reflect damage, and get increased threat over time. So it's fairly similar, actually, to Thorned Armor. Thorned Armor reflects damage, this one reflects damage, but this one increases your evade chance to 100%. I think both of them give you combat state immunity, yeah. I wonder if they were supposed to be that similar. I'm assuming they are. And then Guarded Attack. Oh, that has a different icon. Like, that looks different. Probably because it's an any form skill and not man form skill now. I anticipate the blue line Beorning in a solo situation like this will give me the opportunity to button mash a lot more successfully than the red line. Do less damage, but a lot safer. Also, my cat's very interested in that bird. She was just a little bit late. The bear got it first. The early bear gets the bird. Okay, so at this point, again, for a more solo-oriented build, I would still go ahead and get Debilitating Bees. I would probably go more in the red line if I want to boost damage, and of course the yellow line to boost survivability. If I did, say, landscape content, I don't know, it really depends on what I was doing with the character, what type of build I would go with, but I don't know, I'm kind of more interested in seeing what I can get in the red line. Probably crit chance. That'll impact self-heals as well. I don't know Nature's Wrath if I will really have Wrath issues. But I'll go ahead and put 1 point in it. Probably don't need to boost the damage. I'm actually guessing for my red line build that I did previously, probably don't need the increased strengths in that. We'll get crit chance. I don't see any problem with trample. It's basically the same effect. Can give slash a bleed. Trample, getting the debuff, sure. And then Serrated Edge. That'll give it quite the strong bleed. We could get the outgoing damage debuff. That'd be a little bit more thematic for a tank Beorning, so I don't know, I'll go ahead and do it. And then Bee Swarm damage. That could be one of our stronger damaging abilities as a blue line Beorning here. Probably Biting Edge, I guess, would be even stronger though. Could also get Execute. I don't know how well that would work with the blue line Beorning gameplay, but well, better time to experiment than first time playing the spec and the beta. Probably not worth a cooldown. Probably rather get just straight up bleed damage, considering that is like, what did I say earlier, 2/9 uptime. Assuming that is accurate, then definitely would rather just straight up bleed damage. Alright, we'll try that. No idea how well this will work. I feel like I should just go back into like Fornost or something. That would be a lot more the type of content I would probably choose to do with the blue line, unless I was in somewhere where like I was going to go to Sundergrot. Unless I was in there and dying a lot on red line again with landscape difficulty. But what I'm really liking, outside of just gameplay, with just the new building options, I've noticed there's a lot of flexibility both with the red line and blue line so far. So this is a little bit more damage-oriented blue line here. And the red line I actually went into the blue line, partially for survivability, but also for some important damage boosting effects here, in particular Armor Crush. But I actually had options to go more into the yellow line and get some more self-defenses. Any changes to Warden? No big Warden updates, or not really any Warden updates coming with update 37 at least so far. I don't think, at least last I checked, that was the case. Okay, I was going to go blue line. I think one of the important things I would need to do moving forward is actually organize my abilities here. So we have... Hearten is usable in any form. Is that a blue line thing? I don't remember being able to do that in the red line earlier, but that'll be good for us. So many abilities there. Okay, so this is one of the cooldowns. We'll move the cooldowns to the shift row. That's a cooldown, that's a cooldown, technically that's also a cooldown. Get all these potions out of the way. Okay, I'll move Grizzly Roar actually up here for now. Execute can stay F2, that's where I have it in the red line. Shake Free, that can go up here as well. Rush could go up here as well. Ramirez, he said you can't find a hardened traveler in Archer. I don't think there is a hardened traveler. Oh, are you talking about the NPC for landscape difficulty? Yes, he will only appear after you do the instanced introduction. So when you complete the introduction, and if you're an Archer, that involves, yeah, the Archer thing. I'll avoid spoilers. There should be an NPC like right around these gates, I think. I'm not 100% sure with Archer, but I think he's supposed to be somewhere around there. Now, I call him the Master of Stealth for a reason. I always have trouble spotting him. Now I know where he is in most locations, but even when I'm there, I sometimes have to stare at him for like 5 seconds, because he's just like... He's stealthier than a lot of burglars, in my experience. Any tips to play Warden better? I do think there are plugins that could definitely help with Warden, especially now that a lot of their debuffs and bleeds, including bleeds and the damage over time effects and their debuffs, and they have buffs. All of them have different durations, or a lot of them have different durations, so plugin to help manage that could be very useful. Okay, so we're going to try the Blue Line Beorning gameplay, just staying in bear form. I believe that was one of the... Actually, I wouldn't mind going to man form to use Serrated Edge for the damage. And I did get that trait for Slam. I don't know, that's something I could consider, but we'll see how long we can stay in bear form and just how it goes. I should organize these cooldowns, so Counter is the one that I believe opens Counter Attack, which that doesn't do terrible damage. Alright. I should use Recuperate a lot more frequently. Here, I'll probably move Counter Attack and move Recuperate to F1. Debuff Remover, I can use that. I can use Hearten. I can use Ferocious Roar, increase my max morale up to 90k. which might actually, I mean, I'm level 129, but that might not be terrible with the stat squish. My numbers aren't low just because I'm level 129. It's partially because of the stat squish. Relentless, what does that do? Does it taunt enemies? Yeah, it just seems to be damage and taunt. This is slow, but it is safe. Execute? Can I fit in execute and still live in this whatever? Oh yeah, Nature's Wrath. I got these two to build Wrath. Perfect. Vigilant Roar, that'll give me the Reflect. Alright, this is actually going pretty well. It's very, very slow, but it's going well. I also could use Bee Swarm. I could be playing better and actually making it go faster, but I'm pretty happy with the results so far. I feel basically as powerful as I was way back in Moria on this character when he was actually... Oops, didn't mean to go to man form. But yeah, back in Moria on this character, he was actually really good at soloing group content when it came to it. Or just having the ability to survive to solo group content, I mean. I didn't really solo too much, but when I played with my kin and we were doing all the Moria instances, this was back on Anor actually. Not when Anor was at Moria in terms of progression, but at a later point we just had another low-level group. But anyway, there would be times when the whole group would die except me because I was a tank and had a lot of survivability. But I would have the self-sustain to basically finish boss fights. Otherwise, I didn't really do much challenge stuff to, like, solo content on my own. But when the opportunity presented itself, this character was able to handle it. And it seems like now I'm not even necessarily playing all that well. I'm just using my stuff when it's off cooldown, and it's going smoothly. I'd be very excited. This makes me want to level my Beorning, but I don't want to do it until after the update comes out because it's a whole lot more fun. If y'all cannot tell, I like both the blue and red line Beorning changes. But I think we can come back to the Beorning, but I feel like I have a general grasp on the gameplay and just the changes and, you know, how it feels playing in very short duration. There's a lot of other stuff to get to in the beta, and I don't want to spend the whole time just on the Beorning. So we will switch. I'll go ahead and get to the Guardian. And then I think after that, maybe we can look at the stat squish with my Warden. And perhaps my Brawler. I transferred a whole bunch of characters because actually I want to test the Lore Master. Ooh, well, let's do Lore Master. Let's do a little bit of a break from the class revamps and look at the mini class revamp with the Lore Master. But Wolf Taco, you said, what would be a good heal on the Warden? Sometimes you struggle to stay alive. Well, if you really struggle a lot, you could consider playing the blue line for the tank spec. You'll get better heals. A lot better heals, actually, and some good defensive cooldowns for self-heals. But if you're either already spec'd in the blue line or perhaps playing red line, basically your 2-1 Gambit line, 2-1, 2-1-2, 2-1, 2-1 would be the immediate heal. Probably wouldn't use that one too much, except certain situations. And then the final one, the 5 Gambit one. 2-1 being Shield Spear Gambit line, I should specify. That would be a good Gambit line to use. And depending what level you are, you might have some of the morale taps. That would be like Fierce Resolve, Resolution, and Exaltation of Battle. A couple other gambits to look out for. Alright, we have Hobbit gifts. Waste my bad RNG, except I got 5 of these during beta. Okay, so the Lore Master pets have been updated, and I watched in person, actually. Somebody played the Lore Master, and the pets did a whole lot of damage compared to what they used to. And this was at level 140. Now, at level 67, the pets were already quite weak. And they only got weaker as you got higher level. I think there was another pretty big drop-off, or at least it's when it became noticeably weaker again around level 100. But this character, I have recently played on the landscape because of the landscape difficulty, and I tested the pets with that. So what I want to do is test the update 37 buffs in beta here, and see what the pets can do. again with landscape difficulty. I'm on tier 3, and just see the differences. I think a good start would be the Bog Guardian. He's just good quality of life. Pet because he is ranged and the such, and see what he can do to this Orc Warrior. It was a struggle for this character to kill mobs on tier 3. It was a real struggle on tier 9. And, oh yeah, he's doing a lot more damage. The Devastate 16, ignore that. But this, like, my pets were so weak that him doing 100 damage is a whole lot more. That is actually quite impressive. Now, he is dying. Oh my heal is my heal is 100 to 257. Wow, that is terrible. Okay, ignoring how bad my heal is, I am very impressed with my Bog Guardian's damage there. It wasn't a terrible struggle to defeat mobs. I should say that was more tier 9. But I'm happy with that Bog Guardian damage. Again, given the context, landscape difficulty, I feel like I have to mention that just because if you're not on landscape difficulty, you wouldn't really, like, probably find these to actually be strong. Let's see what the Lynx can do. Did it use its stealth attack? It did, okay. It's still not doing terrible, but what I'm noticing is how terrible Light of Hope is. I didn't realize it was that weak. Now, this character does not have the new LI system, so he's already extra weak because of that. Perhaps some extra context for why it's such a struggle for this character doing anything, but, you know, I'm pretty impressed with that. If I spec Blue Line, which I think I already have set on this character, the pet's going to be buffed even more. We can see, we already saw the Bog Guardian defeat an Orc. Why not see it do it again now that I'm spec'd into Blue Line? And while we enjoy the Bog Guardian, unleash a fury of whatever Bog Guardians do on this Orc, to get back to chat, the person with the Russian that unfortunately I can't read, or what is that, like Cyrillic? I don't think it's acrylic, but it could be. Either way, you said you haven't played in a long time. How are brawlers and captains feeling now? I believe both have some relevancy. Of course, captain with the red line and yellow line. I think people, even with the blue line update, perhaps use it a little bit less for healing than other specs. But I don't think it's definitely not as, wow, that was a big crit. Not as bad as it used to be. I think this guy is living up to his name again, though. That was pretty solid right there. And then brawlers, I think, can do some decent damage and support, but I still don't see them. That could be partially just because not many people have leveled brawler because it's still a relatively new class and just don't have them set up for endgame. But yeah, they do offer some pretty good group support options, and I know they're tanking. They're good for off tanks from what I understand. And off tanks may be more specifically referring to raids, so they're probably able to handle 6-man, 3-man content just fine as a normal tank. Hello, Don White and Wolf Taco. Yes, what do I think of the store? So I am not a fan of the new store. I actually like the way you describe it being blocky. It, like I said in the video, I think it technically does look more modern, but I don't think that's a good thing. Wow, I cannot believe how strong Blue Light Lore Master here is. This is not even the Lore Master update, the Lore Master revamp that they're working on. This is just the pets being buffed. And that actually means that the traits that impact the pets here, plus 25% damage, when the pet does basically no damage, 25% does nothing. But when the pets actually do damage, 25% actually provides a noticeable boost. Lazy Lore Master is back, maybe. Alright, let's send OP away and pull out the links. Alright, now let's see what he can do. This time it'll be to a buck instead of a doe. 1.1k crit. I don't even know if I can crit that much. Okay, maybe with Lightning Storm or a Lightning Strike there. Lightning Strike did 497. All I need is Water Lore on this character. Actually, I have Inner Flame. That one does a little bit of a decent heal for the pet. And me. The bleed doing 4 damage every 5 seconds, critting like 3 there. It's kind of funny though. But yeah, I'm quite entertained with the Lore Master revamp as well. I'll do one more mob and actually fight it myself. Again, compared to what this character used to do, given his old allies being on tier 3 landscape difficulty, I am quite impressed with this pet update. I have also found, I don't know if it's just, okay, let me restart this. I found the store to be very slow. I don't know if this was just in the beta, because I have not actually used the store in live. But I did mess around with it a little bit in beta. It was like very slow to navigate compared to the current store, which I don't think I can even, yeah, this brings up this does bring up the new store. It is actually working. Okay, it's not as slow as it was in my previous beta experience, just clicking around. I just find it a lot slower to navigate. Perhaps search. I've heard search works better. So there is that. But yeah, my experience with the new store has not been as positive as the previous store. And that refers mainly to just the way they display things and the navigation component of it. Also found the old one was better at actually describing the items. I think the descriptions are the same, but it was easier to get a preview of the item without actually like going into it and having to navigate into the item and then back out if you don't want it. You could just all do it from the like sort of browse type page thing. Anyway, class updates. We'll go ahead and knock out the Guardian. I am, for this stream, and probably all my Guardian videos coming up, just focusing on the red line. I do not play Blue Line Guardian. I don't know what Blue Line Guardian was like before, so I can't really comment on how it has improved, or hopefully not, but worse than before, if I don't have really much context for its previous iterations. I have played Blue Line Guardian, but I don't know if I've actually tanked in the past very long while on a Blue Line Guardian. When I tank, it would often be at low levels, and I just go yellow line for the increased threat and just do damage, because didn't really need the survivability. I think there was one time on this character, like one situation, it wasn't just one time, but there was one situation part of this character's journey in Limelight Gorge where I went Blue Line, and it was a little bit easier to solo the Nemesis in Limelight Gorge and Blue Line. So I did have experience with like the solo tank gameplay, but solo tank gameplay is basically about survivability and not necessarily tanking mobs. Like taking aggro from allies, that part of tanking, the very important part of tanking. So anyway, long story short, we're playing Redline, the Keen Blade. Such a nice blade I have here on this weapon. Anyway, we'll probably... Yes, this is actually... Thrill of Battle actually is a thrill now. That's might be what I pick first. I don't know. This gives you your damaging melee attacks. I assume you have to actually use an ability. I don't think auto-attacking would work with that, but there's a way to test. Let me find my kin house. Although my... Wait a minute. If my kin has been disbanded because it's a bore, can I actually travel to my kin house? I don't think so. So we're going to go to the Isengard Tavern. I don't think these training dummies would last long enough, but I can test them just because they're right here next door. This update is planned to be released, I think, mid to late August. I wouldn't expect it to be too soon. But anyway, let's auto attack. I get parry response. And then I use an ability, Sting, and I get Thrill of Battle. I think I crit. Alright, let's try to not crit, please. I did Devastate, and that seemed to reset it, so that's good to know. Rolling Retaliation, I got a bunch of crits there, so that probably consumed it. Yeah. There we go, Thrill of Battle again. Let's try to stack it to 2. Okay, we got 2 stacks of that, so that's how that works, really. I did put all 5 points in that, but yeah, that's good for increased crit chance. And you do have to use your abilities. That was the point there. It will not cost you anything when the update comes out. If you have to, like, it'll just automatically respec you. It won't, like, cost you anything. But that said, if you do, like here, oh, it just let me respecialize. You have to spend a little bit of silver, but it's like such a small amount that I would be surprised if you ever run into issues where you don't have enough money for it. Unless you spend all your money on something. Need water. Have to restore my mana after talking. Thrust. Yeah, so with the Guardian revamp, the reason I'm less excited about it than the Beorning revamp is partially because I thought the old Redline Beorning was just so bad that the amount of improvement is going to be a whole lot more, and the potential for improvement really is a whole lot more with the Redline Beorning than the Redline Guardian. But I have enjoyed the Redline Guardian a lot more than the old Redline Beorning. But another reason is I have found the traits that they have in the Redline Guardian to be feel-bad traits, is the way I describe them. It's not an issue exclusive to the Redline Guardian, but they just have a lot of traits like that. And two ones to point out here are going to be Hemorrhage and Blind Rage. So I am not a big fan of traits that give you cost 5 traits, so there's 5 ranks in it and goes from like 20% to 100% chance for an effect. I would rather just have the effect guaranteed, and then like whatever effect it has maybe goes from 20% effectiveness to 100% effectiveness. And the reason is that RNG just makes it feel terrible while you are putting traits in it, like Hemorrhage here, Brutal Assault. Assuming it has not changed with the update, which is a pretty bold assumption, we all have to see if that's the case. But Brutal Assault used to have a really long animation and not even do that good damage. The only reason to use it was because of its bleed. Well, you had to pick Brutal Assault, and then you had to spend a whole bunch of trait points on other stuff. And then eventually you could get Hemorrhage, but you had to spend 5 trait points in Hemorrhage before you could actually guarantee the bleed for it to actually be a useful ability. And that's still the same way in the revamp. So that's pretty unfortunate for me to see. I was hoping they would work on some of that stuff. It also looks like Brutal Assault appears to be, just based on the numbers, we can go ahead and apply it here and actually do some comparison. But Brutal Assault here appears to be relatively weak. And just compared to Sting, and see here how slow Brutal Assault is, so it takes that long to use, compared to Sting, which is a very, very fast attack like that. And they do fairly similar damage. Sure, Brutal Assault is slightly stronger. But then, my other options for traits here, I can fit 3 more traits in melee damage, and like 2-handed weapon damage or whatever, skill damage and 2-handed weapon damage, there we go. And then my other traits that I could get are Invigorating Response, but if I have no power issues, all I'm left with is Tireless Blows. So I can reset the Brutal Assault ability that I already don't even want to use at this point. But because I eventually will want to use it, I'm going to go ahead and put these trait points. It used to be worse because I think you had to put 4 points in Tireless Blows to unlock the next row. I could be misremembering on that, but basically that's still an issue. And maybe they'll have an iteration, they'll be able to iterate on this update before it comes live and change something like that. But that is, I guess, just to explain why I haven't been the biggest fan of the Redline Guardian revamp, even though we haven't even gotten to the gameplay. Say you have all these traits and the only like difference is going to be the gameplay. And this is more about the building process as you actually level up. So we'll have to look at the actual gameplay changes. What was I doing? Oh yeah, so further traits, we could go ahead and get to the King. Again, that's not the most impressive ability. It does finish out the parry chain, but it becomes a lot more impressive when you get Blind Rage as well. And then deeper wounds. So domino tricks. You are wondering, wasn't Red Guardian good enough before? It did relatively decent damage, but I think they are buffing the damage, so it is even better. But I think another important change, they're actually nerfing the healing. I remember that being a reason. They actually stated why the old Redline Guardian was like not as, maybe as much damage as some other DPS specs, just because it had decent self-healing. In my experience, that wasn't the most impressive, but they did have more self-healing than other DPS classes, basically DPS specs. But one of the really big changes that we'll get to is the removal of the yellow line as a spec, and now the yellow line only has a ton of traits here to support red and blue line builds. So with the Redline Guardian, you actually get access to potentially a lot more from the yellow line to alter the gameplay decent bit from what it used to be. So that's I'd say the bigger part of the revamp of the Redline Guardian in my experience from what I remember reading. Again, we'll get to playing it and seeing how it actually plays out with that. Into the fray. This increases charge duration and run speed, gives you guaranteed crit. That appears to be the same. Probably still not worth picking, but we'll evaluate later. Now, after 25 trait points spent, Brutal Assault is finally converted from Bad Attack to actually, hopefully, being a Brutal Assault. We'll see. Just for some reference with numbers, it does appear to be a relatively decent single target bleed. I'm actually surprised Thrust is that weak. I know it lasts a little bit longer, but I'm surprised they have it doing so little damage. I know that's another one you can upgrade with Overwhelm. Also, why do I have Retaliation and not Breach? Did something go wrong? Aren't I supposed to have Breach in? Oh, here's Breach. But you still have Retaliation? Really? Retaliation requires a parry response. What is the point of Retaliation then? I thought they removed Retaliation and Whirling Retaliation and just converted them to Breach and Whirling Breach. But anyway, I don't know if this training dummy will survive long enough, but... Oh yeah, it does. Okay. But there's the improved bleed if you use Overwhelm, just to get the full tooltip for comparison. You can't have both bleeds up at once, but this is the Thrust bleed, Deep Wound here. And that's why I was surprised it did so little damage, but you do see when you improve it with Overwhelm, it does... Sorry, I've just realized a huge mistake that I am not recording any of this gameplay locally. I'll go ahead and fix that now, but that means I don't have access to anything I just did locally later, but that's okay. Yes, Breach is going to be the parry gain skill, which does allow you to use Retaliate, but oh yeah, I can't even use Retaliate. That skill's being barred from use. Okay, maybe that was just a bug and I didn't actually have the ability. That is entirely possible. But anyway, there's, for this random level 107 character, the relative numbers for these different bleeds. I'll go ahead and exit that out. And yeah, basically Brutal Assault fits right in there, is what I was trying to say. Look at the blue text. Yep. Oh yeah, they still... Oh. Thrust requires the use of Retaliation or Rolling Retaliation. I guess they need to fix that. Overwhelm they have correct, requiring to use Breach or... Whirling Breach. It says requires the use of, but really it requires a parry event, right? Can't you still parry and it will open? No, actually. So this is no longer a parry chain? Wait, where's Retaliation? I still have Retaliation. I parried though. I evaded. Okay, let's see if I get another parry on this training dummy. Evade. Here, let me get in combat with two of them. I would like to evade, or parry, please. There, I got a parry, but I can't use Retaliation. I guess they just need to do some fixing here, but it looks like perhaps Thrust and Overwhelm aren't actually going to be involved with the parry chain. Maybe. Or pairing doesn't work with them, or the training dummies, for some reason pairing them just doesn't actually properly trigger the parry chain. That's another possibility. When do we get Relentless Fury? That's surprisingly early, I guess, in the set bonuses to get a cooldown like that. But it's basically increased damage and you unlock the parry chain. Which, according to tooltips in the game, is now only retaliation, which doesn't ever seem to work, so who knows. I assume that would actually open. Yeah, that does open thrust. Wow, that was an impressive animation. I think that's the animation that Cataclysmic Shout has. I was surprised. Anyway, back to building. We can get, this is, to me, this is just such a silly trait that I have to question why it even exists. It's just one trait with one trait point, and all it does is buff your stats a little bit. Like, they're useful. Increase your crit chance, increase parry, I guess, and increase physical mastery, but it's like, why is that even a trait? Hammer down, and I think that Rupture, despite its icon being the healing icon, greatly improves Hammer down. So Hammer down will remove the bleed effects that you have on the enemy and apply a stronger bleed. I believe it's supposed to be stronger, and it will increase incoming damage on the enemies for a short period. So we'll go ahead and apply all the bleeds. Probably shouldn't have used these two first. I really like this breach and rolling breach thing. I know I'm just using it on the training dummies here, but wow, that really lets you get those faster. I didn't use enough bleeds, but basically you get Ruptured Wound there, which is a very massive bleed. If you remember the numbers from earlier, I think Overwhelm was like in the 700 to 800 range ballpark. But it gives the huge bleed, and it gives increased incoming damage, which of course, if you're in group content, just playing with a group, playing with more than one person, then you can get quite the, it's a debuff that everybody can take advantage of. That is what I'm trying to say. So that's pretty exciting with Hammer Down. My only worry with that is that will take away from just using Hammer Down to hammer down on the enemy. Like, an old landscape, at least, it would be fun to just hammer down and one-shot somebody. You can still do that, but it's a long cooldown ability, and I don't know in landscape how much you'll be able to take advantage of the bleed. That really seems oriented for longer combat. But yeah, if you're playing with landscape difficulty and come across an elite or something, you might be able to take advantage of that, and you see how quickly you can apply the bleeds now. That's another exciting thing. Like, just how quick I can get. We'll try to get all these. There are some long animations. I could cut those animations, but getting, I still only have 3 bleeds. Getting your bleeds on is relatively quick process now, though. To me, I'm guessing the intention is, and how it will play out, just looking at some of these numbers and the such, is that Sting will be less important than it used to be. It used to be basically the most important ability for Redline Guardian DPS, but perhaps not the case anymore. Also, technically, I'm only supposed to have Force Opening after putting 1 trait point in this, or it'd be 2 trait points putting 1 rank in this. And just as an FYI, so that will probably be fixed. So given that, it's possible that resetting the cooldown of Brutal Assault will be a little bit more important than it used to be. But if I were to just play this character, I would probably test it with 1 trait point and see if I really needed more. I would guess that putting more in that would be useful again, though. Damaging attacks can renew all debuffs. I believe these are supposed to work on the bleeds. And then Bastion of Light is going to be an interesting one. Give you a little bit more AoE damage, perhaps with your Redline Guardian, eventually. So it makes them susceptible to debuffs, and I think eventually you can spread your debuffs, which again in this case would include bleeds. I don't know if it's really clear in game, but I think it is supposed to, yeah, let you spread your bleeds, but supposed to not work with the hammer down and rupture effect. Both the bleed and the incoming damage effect from rupture. I believe it's supposed to not work with those. I don't know if it's supposed to not work with anything else. I don't know if it makes it clear anywhere in game that those specific effects don't work with it, but that's the way LOTRO is a lot of the times with hidden mechanics like that. Anyway, yeah, basically consecration and LOTRO. That's why I thought if they actually made a Yellow Line Guardian themed around something like that, I know that's just one effect, but could be fun as its own spec, but that will not be the case, it appears. Turn the Tables has an AoE stun now. Oh yeah, it does. 3 targets. It's kind of interesting. Red Line Guardians actually used to have, what was it? Oh yeah, Brutal Charge. You would knock down your enemies for 5 seconds, so you could get pretty good AoE stuns with that as well. Or knockdown, technically, in this case, but that was actually, there was a time when we had a certain group composition. This was before the Warden revamp, so the tanking was kind of sketchy at best. But where we had a Guardian, Warden, and I think a Minstrel, and that might have been it, just us 3 running a 6-man instance. And basically, the composition that let us get through the encounter, I think it was the first boss in whatever the Pelennor 6-man was. The one where you're like up in Minas Tirith somewhere, basically. Whatever that one was called. But what let us get through that fight was actually having the Guardian go DPS. Warden, I was playing the Warden go tank, and the Guardian using the AoE stuns is what let us get through that fight. That was pretty fun. Anyway, more trait points, War Chant, and then Bastion Radiate here. This one enhances Bastion of Light, so increases the range of it. Damaging skills can copy your debuffs from one target to another, so that's where the bleeds can spread. We can go ahead for simplicity, just test this. So Bastion of Light works on yourself. So I put this down, and I believe it's supposed to be an area there that does not follow me, maybe? But I'll go ahead and use a bleed, and we can try to pass it with Vexing Blow. Let's see. So far, I did not spread it. We'll use Whirling thingy. Still did not spread it. I don't even have it on the target anymore to spread it. I don't know if I even have Bastion of Light anymore because it's not a toggle type thing like it used to be. Okay, let's use it again and see if I can spread it. I'm trying to just use my AoEs here. Oh, they're already out of combat. It'd be easy to test against these training dummies if they didn't go out of combat. Unfortunately, that is going to provide an issue with that. But yes, theoretically, I should have a 30% chance to copy that bleed when I use an AoE. Wait, it says just damaging skills. I might not necessarily even need to use an AoE. Creates a hotspot. Enemies are marked by becoming susceptible to spreading debuffs. Yeah, that's all it says. I don't know. Let's see if using single target attacks can do it. I can use AoEs as well, but we'll see if any of them get thrust or brutal assault. So far not. You would see the damage tick on them. I'll try thrust again. Oh, did we get something? We got sweeping cut. Okay, let me try to avoid sweeping cut here. Oh, I need to actually use it. That's right. Let's use the ability. Ah, the puddle. That is... Somebody created a forum thread basically complaining about puddles and delvings. I think that was it. But I definitely agree. That is like... Yeah, with these training dummies, it just doesn't work well. I don't know if... Oh, I was wondering, this is just a huge radius because it's like 18 meters or whatever. But I was wondering where the effect of this was. So it does place it on the ground. Most challenging but playable difficulty for solo. Perhaps tier 7, but I have not tried tier 7. On some classes, tier 9 is playable, but very slow. I think it really depends on what you consider playable, because for my hunter who's in Moria, I would consider tier 9 playable. Maybe not the most fun for me personally, but definitely playable. Okay, where is a place with a bunch of AoE mobs that won't die right away, but also won't kill me right away? Could go Fornost again. Warg pens, that is true. That could be a good one. I'm afraid these guys will kill me right away, but basically I want to spread this bleed. I want to see other mobs start taking bleed damage here. I'm not seeing any other mobs taking bleed damage here, and this guy's about to lose Brutal Assault probably. So supposedly I have a 30% chance to pass this debuff, but again, maybe it doesn't actually work with bleeds. I thought their intention was for it to work with bleeds. We can... Actually, I don't have the guaranteed crit trait. Oh, we got a stun. That probably don't count as a debuff. Still... Oh, I have to... I forget I have to actually put the effect on the ground, too. Yeah, I didn't see anything get transferred to them. That's what I was assuming, that it was AoE skills, but it also just says damaging skills. Now, whether that actually means damaging skills, all damaging skills, and not just AoE skills, I don't know. But I do have to remember to actually apply the effect. I also can use Warrior's Heart, so we're going to try with Brutal Assault again, and I'll use AoE skills. I could use Sweeping Cut, that would technically be one, but that did not pass it. Also did not pass it. Okay. We'll do Brutal. Oh, well, that just killed it. Whoops. Hello, the soccer. You kind of missed some stuff. So basically you missed I am currently playing the Guardian with the Guardian revamp and testing some things that appear to not work. I don't know if it's working as intended or if it's bugged. Because from what I remember they were saying, now there could be things I haven't kept up much the past 3 weeks, but from what I last heard was that bleeds were supposed to be passable with Radiate and also refreshable with Insult to Injury. So I'm not really seeing the passable part, like you can spread the bleeds with Radiate. I have not seen that so far. And with 30% chance, I would suspect that I've used enough abilities where I would have to have really, really terrible RNG to not see something be spread so far. I think there's an Elite Master up there. Here, we can go to this camp up to the top left. So I'll give it one more try, maybe with Brutal Assault here. So I think either they need cleaned up tooltips, cleaned up descriptions for different things, or make their intentions a little bit more clear on what is supposed to be able to spread what. Also, I totally consumed that, but still no Brutal Assault spread with all those abilities. So hopefully when this update comes live, whatever they have in game is a lot more clear on what actually does and does not work. Because if this does not work with spreading the debuffs, that would make me suspect that Insult to Injury does not work with refreshing. I should say, if this does not work with spreading bleeds, I would suspect that Insult to Injury also does not work on refreshing bleeds. But I thought in the current Guardian that it does work with refreshing bleeds. So, who knows at this point? I won't bother too much with testing that further. We'll get 1 point in this to block with 2-handed weapon, probably going to help a tiny bit with survivability there. Do these abilities require a shield? Probably. Yeah, missing your incorrect weapon. Good. Because that was the case in the old yellow line, but was just curious if they changed that. Otherwise, Thrill of Danger can eventually become a self-heal. Make sure, oh yeah, definitely ignore the pain. I wonder if they fixed the exploit with ignore the pain, or if you can still, oh yeah, it's actually fast and not immediate, so I guess they did. Used to be able to use that ability twice, once for the normal animation cancel, but also using it twice. Cancel the animation itself of ignore the pain, so you'd get double. You'd basically get an instant animation cancel without the second animation going for ignore the pain. So it's good to see that fixed, even if I like having immediate abilities, but I think it makes more sense for something like this to be fast, and it's also more in line with other class effects. Bolster increases crit defense bonus from bolster. Whatever bolster is, who knows? Oh yeah, bolster is the trait. That one increases yeah, and then this one just increases the magnitude of that. All right, this one I think gives you increased crit when you BPE. I don't know if forcing a response increases your crit. Probably not, but I'll put 1 point in it just because at this point. Disabling strikes. This is a debuff, but your non-damaging debuffs is increased. I honestly don't know what all debuffs I have access to at a baseline. I have minus 5% outgoing damage. So that's another minus 2.5%. And then I think stagger decreases run speed and increases attack duration. So that would cover those two. And then I don't know, some other things might do other stuff. I don't know if this alone gives me a debuff, the Bastion of Light being in that, or a chance to apply a debuff. And then this is one of my favorite descriptions. For rank 2, you can increase the maximum number of targets for War Chant by 2 string table error table did, whatever that is, token, whatever that is. And you get some increased War Chant range. Anyway, what does this do? Increases number of targets, okay. And it decreases response skill cooldown. Per rank, okay. So, wait. Is that actually going to impact these? My cats. One cat is right here. That one's Lexi. The other one's right here. You can't see behind my keyboard. That one is Piper. What was I doing? Oh yeah, so I played that, and we're going to see, did that reduce the cooldown? It did not reduce the cooldown. What did that trait say it did? Increasing block and parry response skill cooldown per rank. Does that affect retaliation then? It doesn't appear to have affected a retaliation either. Did that impact our block response skills? 5-second cooldown? Am I just totally misunderstanding what a block and parry response skill are? Block and parry response skills. Oh, War Chant will reduce that. Sorry, I am very slow today. Never mind. You have to use War Chant. I was wondering why it just like this trait randomly reduced the cooldown of those, but that's when you use War Chant. Which at minus 5 seconds, that would reset the cooldown of Thrust, and they use Overwhelm and reset the cooldown to the King. That's not too bad. I know there can be some issues with really huge War Chant range, but usually that's just fun. Redirect. I'm guessing redirect was probably not really worth picking too much anymore. It really wasn't worth using much before anyway, but I don't know the survivability here. Oh yeah, take a breath. That's actually good for survivability, of course. Minus 5 seconds. Can maybe shave 10. Oh, actually more than 10 seconds. Maybe like 15 seconds off of it. More, actually. You could shave a full 20 off of it if you used War Chant on cooldown and timed it perfectly with Catch a Breath. what we got here? Oh, disabling strikes. I guess I might as well get that. I don't know. Bastion of Light. This is the one I wanted. It's finally going to be concentration. So now any enemy within this will take damage. This is a huge circle, so it's hard to see, but any enemy within that will take damage. Now the question is, how does that actually work? It says they take damage every 3 seconds. So if you are in it, do you take damage every 3 seconds and you step outside, you no longer have the debuff? Does it apply a debuff to you? Like if you pass through it, you get an effect that damages you over time, and even if you leave, that stays on you. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like Guardian has a great opportunity to do some accidental pulls. With School being a delving instance, and I know actually that one in my experience, I think it has to do with the malices, the affixes. I think mobs can have much larger aggro radius, and at least early in School being one of the delvings, that was a possibility. But basically, let's see, right here, that group is not in combat. And this puts them in combat, or chant as well. Also, how am I not dead yet? What is wrong? Why do I have so much survivability? My whole purpose was to go in here and pull too many things and die. Hold up, can I actually survive this? I wasn't going to try. Okay. But anyway. That's that. Good old School. Maybe I should try to solo School. That'll be our challenge for this character. Thrill of Danger will restore my health. I would need 3 points in that to unlock the next row, so that works for me. Kinda works for me. I'm not a big fan of it, actually. Maybe 1 point in it. I just want to get the baseline morale restore. I don't know that it's worth worrying about much more, so maybe we'll get 1% more melee damage. Enemies are snared if they fail to continue attacking Guardian after their use of damaging abilities. Not going to impact me solo. Protected by light enhances protection by sword and the such, which doesn't. Actually, that does help me. Wait, that only lasts 10 seconds. I forgot about that. That is the weirdest thing to me. Or does it constantly refresh? Oh, it constantly refreshes. That's right. I think, yeah, every 10 seconds it will refresh for, I guess, just make sure everybody's actually included. It's sort of a tick rate of sorts. Increased incoming healing to protection. Oh yeah, so adds a damage shield. What is the damage shield? That would be useful to know before putting trait points in it. You get a little reflect. I'll take it. So I get the reflect shield? Is that how that's working? I do. Nice. Took a while for the next part of protection by sword to apply, but maybe there is some unintended downtime there. Anyway, more points. I am only level 107, by the way, and I'm already getting deep into the yellow line, so that's kind of interesting. You get quite a bit more trait points, about 20-ish more, when you're level 140, so I'll have a lot more to fill out than this character even. Get increased tactical mit, scoring a crit with a parry response decreases target's mits. Is that debuff impacted by this? Decreased mitigations? I don't see it listed here. I guess that would be considered a damaging debuff, but I would assume that bleeds would be damaging debuffs. Also, Cataclysmic Shout does a whole bunch of stuff. It does damage. Oh, this is the one that applies all the bleeds. Applies Guardian debuffs and some bleeds to affected targets. I wonder if it's, this is something we can test right here against these guys, but Cataclysmic Shout, does it apply, so it applies those debuffs, but is it impacted by Hammer Down? Hammer Down. Oh, he died too fast. Oh, yeah, I forgot that's an AoE. That's pretty crazy. Just because I go pulling more mobs. Need to keep the To the King buff up. That'll be important moving forward. I don't know if it's really worth using just for straight up damage. It really seems like bleeds are, well, back on the menu. They always were, but are, I'd say, more important after this update, just based on my initial look here. But yeah, with the gameplay, it didn't really seem to be modified all that much besides hammer down and of course easier access to thrust and overwhelm, which were pretty big changes. And so far I'm pretty happy with that portion, but adding all the yellow line stuff really adds just another layer here that will, I think that's what's going to take the most time for me to get used to. See if there's anything worth picking in the blue line here. Perhaps increased finesse. This also lets Sting open a parry response, which who knows if that works or not. Somebody might actually know, but oh, increased AoE damage. That's what I should have gotten. Oops, my bad. So, if I activate Bastion of Light, Brutal Assault, see if I can spread Brutal Assault again. We'll give it another chance. Hey, here's going to be the AoE stun turn the tables thing that did not AoE stun. Don't see Brutal Assault on this guy. Also, I have to remember I don't have to use Force Opening to unlock the parry chain. That may or may not actually be a parry chain. The game seems to be confused if it wants it to be a parry chain or not. How much damage does this do, by the way? So it gives a 15-second debuff, actually. It's 507 damage. That's pretty well, I was going to say reasonable, but respectable, as in it's a lot of damage. First attack, you... Yeah, I think that only works with melee abilities now. Also, that is a bad use of hammer down now. Catch a breath, that barely healed me. That was hardly a breath catch, so it's 10% of maximum morale, plus Redline Guardian healing is already nerfed by 50%. I really don't want us to have self-heals. I'm actually kind of surprised they let Champion have such strong self-heal with bracing attack, when they seem to have gutted Redline Guardian self-heals quite a bit here. And they did that with the Redline Warden as well. So yeah, I don't know, without the ability to spread bleeds, hammer down is only single target. I guess that's something to remember. For some reason I think mixing it up with Beorning and thinking it was AoE. Yeah, that might be fine. There is probably a trace ray for Catch a Breath. This character I probably have, yeah, I have no trace rays, it seems. They're all inactive. What did, oh, stamp cooldown is definitely a good one. So that still exists. That is a good point though. I haven't looked at the trace rays. See if they added or changed anything with trace rays for both Beorning and Guardian. I'm just fairly impressed with this character's damage. Let's see if we can do the AoE knockdown still. Okay, we can. We just have to use a melee ability. Well, Bastion of Light's going to spread all my stuff, so... Wait, why can't I use Cataclysm? Oh, I'm silenced. There we go. Now I use Cataclysmic Shout. Now I use this. Now I use that. Let's go. This thing. Now spread these bleeds. Clearly did not spread my bleeds. Wait, you can just use turn the tables without... Hold up. Where's my health? Oh, we need Brutal Assault. I'm gonna try to get a really big hammer down on this guy. It might be too late though. Never mind. It did enough damage itself though that I didn't get the huge bleed effect from it. I did get bleed cash out, so not only does it apply a huge bleed, it does give the bleed cash out, like instant damage, so that's pretty nice. Not bad for not really knowing how to play the new Redline Guardian. At least I don't consider it too bad. We'll see how many things that pulls. It's an easy puller. Like, gotta give it credit for that. Skill is not ready to use. How long is the cooldown on Cataclysmic Shout? Almost 4 minutes, probably. 3 minutes, I would have to guess. Am I in combat? Also, what a convenient level up. I can get that last point in the AoE damage. Wait, force opening didn't do anything either. I wonder that... Okay. Let's actually check. Oh. There we go. So, here is the Guardian notes. And I am looking for... Oh, wow, this is listed quite a bit differently than the Guardian or the Beornings. Radiate was not applying to all skills for a faulty reference. This has been... and all harmful skills have a chance to radiate debuffs to target all harmful skills. There are still 2 missing spreading effects, stagger, attack speed, and litany of defense. These will be added for beta 3. We're in beta 3, but so far, none of my bleeds are actually being spread. Bastion of Light has 5% chance to trigger targets within radius of effect, insult injury. Yeah, it does have a 3-minute cooldown for Cataclysmic Shout. This one, yeah, it says, it doesn't say in addition to like retaliation, rolling retaliation, but it does say just breach and rolling breach. Why are the 2 cats going to the same cat bed? Watch, that's going to cause Lexi. She's going to go out of it, and maybe she'll settle down in the other one. But there was a whole other cat bed for Piper to go into, but she wanted that one, I guess. That one does have a little round bed that they sometimes like. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Here are the known issues. Not trigger tenderized, okay, not getting into that. Force opening, always open bit shield blow. And force opening appears to not really be working. Yeah, don't see anything about bleeds and their ability to trigger. I could be missing it in this whole thing. Perhaps that would be described maybe a little bit here in the yellow line. It's still just saying debuffs. That could also be mentioned elsewhere in this thread, but I'm not really seeing anything. So if anybody knows about the bleeds, then I would definitely appreciate the info, but it appears, whether intentional or not, the bleeds are not being spread by, I guess, Radiate is the name of the actual trait. Come on, these other orcs can make it. Oh, does that have a target limit, probably? Yeah, it already only affects 5 targets. So force opening, just to double check. Yeah, that's not actually opening any parry, anything. So that might not be worth picking for a 2-handed Guardian build. If it actually opens the block response chain, it could be. I believe that that is supposed to be a viable thing, by the way, to go sword and board style for your Redline Guardian. A little bit more defenses at the cost of damage, I think, is the design goal, it sounded like. Anyway, we have Commander Tarsh, and I think I have to get really close to him. Isn't his first effect like increased damage the farther you are away from him? I'm so used to using force opening. Don't need to use it. Oh. Hold up. Now we'll use this. And then I think I need Brutal Assault, and then we can use Hammer Down with 4 blades. There we go. And just to be safe, I'll go ahead and self-heal. Where's my interrupt? On cooldown. This is bad. Also, he's using his thing. Don't worry, we got this. All is well. Beautiful. For dueling other players, I'm not opposed to it. I have enjoyed it. I've never done like a lot of it very seriously, but I have done it. Also, why are these earrings so bad? That's kind of weird. Usually they're really strong. Okay, maybe they're not that terrible. But yeah, I wonder if they nerf these earrings with the stat scaling. The earrings I have equipped, I mean. The scaling ones. Because those are actually for my level cap warden and my runekeeper for that matter, and whatever other high level characters I have. They're the best earrings that I have for DPS. I think for Louis, my warden, I finally replaced them for tanking. But yeah, it was kind of a shock. I still think they're better than this new one. I was just a little bit of a shock with the low numbers at first there. Anyway, Guardian revamp, I was able to solo school, and as far as I can tell, things are either buggy or their intentions are both not clear in the forums and on the with the actual skill descriptions, but it is beta. It is possible that stuff is A, not actually working, and B, just not finished and not described properly. So yeah, ready for release, exactly. Okay, so that makes me want to investigate the stat revamp next, and then we might have time to briefly go to Lindelby housing, but I don't know how much I will really have to do there besides walk around the neighborhood, I guess. The cats are siblings. They are, as far as I know, from the same litter. They were said to be from the same litter when I rescued them. And they look very similar, besides one being fat and one being skinny. There we go. That's the problem with playing on 1080p for a bit. Have to refresh my UI. Okay, let's see the earrings. Are they actually really bad, or was that just the initial reaction there? Well, this is an unfair comparison because these are tanky and these are not. But I don't know, the numbers seem fairly reasonable, I guess. I was hoping I had something easier for comparison. Maybe this one? Yeah, this one's a little bit more DPS oriented. It has a lot of vitality though. So these are a pretty big downgrade. Actually, no, this one, I would probably use this one, the purple one, if I had an essence for it for DPS now. I don't think that was the case before. Maybe it was though. I've been pretty much focused on tanking with the warden after the revamp. It's not that red line is really bad, I'm just not having as much fun with it as I did with the old yellow line. The cats seem polite now. They're relatively polite, but anyway, stat revamp warden has a little bit more than 10% of my old morale. So whether it's just number reductions or whatever, I ended up with slightly more than 10%. So hey, I don't have to work real hard to make sure I'm still at 200k. This is honestly, I feel like the stat squish could have reduced numbers even more if we're still in the 100,000s of morale, but that is a lot of levels to get there, so yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to criticize the stat squish because I think it is great to have the stats squished. That's what the distant landscape looking funky there. I don't feel like I normally see those trees popped in like that. Huh. They used to like climbing in my lap, but even when I'm sitting, right now I'm standing, but even when I'm sitting in my chair, it's kind of difficult for them too. Piper used to a lot, I think, with my old setup where the desk was a little bit taller and she actually fit on my lap better. Lexi is not the biggest lap sitter. Anyway, there's not much for me to do on this warden. I have to go to Lindelby housing, and I have no idea how to get there, to be honest. Isn't the, like, housing person to transport you to all the housing areas there? Okay. I can't believe I actually knew that, because I don't do housing. Maybe Lindelby will change that, though. Did they stealth buff mobs again in instances in Update 37? The beta? Actually, there is one more thing I could do on my warden, but we'll see. We'll see after we visit the new neighborhood. Go delving. Where is the River Hobbit? There? Oh yeah, by the way, for River Hobbits, I could make a character for this. But what did I just do? Actually, we'll have that for an upcoming video. Okay, what's a good name for a neighborhood? Wow, they have a lot of neighborhoods fit into Lindelby here. How about Malrath? Oh, how about Marwell? Doorhouse. I think this will just get you to the neighborhood. That's all I really wanted to do. So this is, in terms of landscape, Lindelby is over here, and the neighborhood is just a little bit tucked in the mountains here. Little secret place cleared out. And they have floating elves that just hover. Pretty neat feature of the neighborhood. There are hobbit houses. That's definitely recognizable. Honestly, I could go for a good hobbit house. We'll see. If I know people that go into Lindelby housing, this might be the one that actually gets me to get a house finally. It's also a pretty neat area. I do have to say that. Hobbit housing wouldn't have been the most exciting to me, but I actually like this neighborhood. And I used to have a Shire house. Like, even though I played elves, having a good hobbit hole for your elves is never a bad thing. Are these two houses or is this a double house? Comfortable warren. Rest before you. I mean, it's just one address. I guess if you... Are the two houses connected on the inside? I mean, that's sort of a third house right there. Oh. I don't know. What do you all think? Should I get at Lindelby house? Should I make one Broadmead Lane my house? Oh, there's another door here. That is not the door I came in. I came in that door. These two doors seemed way too close. That's why I don't think they were, like, it was actually all connected, but it appears to be. I guess this is the back door and that's the front door. They just both happen to stick out the front. I'm not the biggest fan of the location of this one. I mean, that's really close to Sundergrad over there. A bit noisy with all the goblins doing their sapper training and the stuff. Just such. They have nice flat yards though. That's a pretty big bonus. Yeah, I was not expecting to like the housing this much, but it's a really nice area and it might be time, Bluey, after I sort of got kicked out of my house or whatever, partially transferred servers. For some reason, the house maintenance, like, always kept up over the years, but then randomly decided not to. As in, there was a very long period where I did not pay for my house maintenance. This was my old Shire house I was talking about, and it was like completely fine. And then suddenly I went just a few months without it, and they decided to kick me out. Don't know if I like this house, but I think that's because this is NPC area. Yeah, besides all the hobbits, I like this neighborhood. I'll probably do a video. Ooh, what's that place? I'll probably do a video. Is there a kin house? That would actually be a good question. So this is the same thing, I believe. This one's convenient in that it's close to the NPCs. So if you're looking for that sort of convenience, it's a little bit tucked away, but it's kind of noisy to me. Perhaps a little busy. Seems like a great place for war steed riding as well. Definitely prefer it over Erebor housing. It's immediately more appealing to me. It kind of makes me wonder how successful was Erebor housing for Standing Stone games. This one you get a nice little waterfall in your backyard. Side yard. There's also this little cave that appears to lead nowhere. But hey, you have a cave next to your house as well, if you like that. That's a tiny hut. I don't see a door. Is an abandoned house just a feature here? Or is that what Hobbit outhouses look like? This one looks pretty fancy on the map. It does appear to be one property. I guess we could read the for sale sign. You might also be able to pull up that menu somewhere else while in the neighborhood, but this is going to be a Kinship Smile, as it's called. Alright then. Oh yeah, this is a complex. I like this one. Makes me really curious what's up here then. Also, have we seen the smaller houses? So there is a second level there. Alright, I might have to convince my kin to transfer from the Erebor house to this. I will say the inside of the houses I'm less of a fan of. Partially probably because of the height. It's nice that these Hobbit houses are built and that they can accommodate an elf, but it just makes it feel very tight. From just a walking through it perspective, even if it is like somewhat realistic or almost what you could expect a real house to look like. Without extra tall ceilings. But yeah, I'd say the biggest downside of the housing neighborhood to me is going to be the insides of the houses. That'd take some getting used to. Might be easier to decorate though. You have less vertical space to worry about. But you also have to worry about hitting your head on the cross beams here. There's a cave in the back. Okay. This also almost looks like an infinite mirror type thing. Oh, it'd be so easy to get lost in this. It's gonna be hard though to convince my kin to make the switch. Because I think you can only have one kin house as a kin, right? Like I can't just come in here and buy a kin house, or my kin can't come in here and buy a second kin house. I don't think either of those are options. Like you'd have to have the house dedicated to the kin. So I'm like, if I really wanted that house, I could make a kin and buy the house that way. And perhaps just be an alt character with that house, although I don't know how easy it would be to travel there that way. But yeah, with my kin having a decent number of dwarves, it's going to be hard to convince them to transfer the Erebor house. I already wasn't the biggest fan of us taking an Erebor house, but I think we did that when we moved to Landreval because we were on Anor and had the Belphilus island. We had a whole island to our own. I miss our kin island. As much. It also a very convenient location with us sailing to Harad. Feels like we could be right in the middle of the action, but now we're tucked away in Erebor. Not that this is any close to any sort of action with us going to Harad. It's kind of that Gundabad area, which I'm sure everybody's tired of at this point. Maybe. Maybe not. Here it is. A cozy warren. This is Stonegate Path. So this one would be I actually would have 475 mithril coins. I don't know how much writs are, but with the like 30% off LOTRO, the like coupon that you can get, might be worth considering. 19 of these, that's quite expensive. Might be worth considering using that to get a huge mithril coin bundle. Looks like, wait, does the Valor? Oh, there's level 140 Valor? Is that in live? I could consider that as well. It only gives 25 mithril coins though. Also, whoa, what happened there? Here, if I do this, I can just hide this real quick and I can delete. There we go. And this should work. Yeah, so this is the 140 Valor that comes with 25 mytho coins here. If we go back, this is 250 mytho coins would cost 2,000, and that's probably the bundle I would get. And if I can get that 30% off with the coupon code, of course this is beta and I have 0 LOTRO points and whatever. But anyway, this is the new store. It's going a lot faster. And the searching, I like the search keeps the category. I don't know if I ever even tried searching in the old LOTRO. Oh yeah, I did try searching and it worked. But I will say this is at least functionally it's a lot faster than it used to be, but I'm still not a fan of the general navigation here and just how much space it takes to show one item, and it doesn't even show a description. That's one thing I liked with the old LOTRO store, is you didn't have to like click the item like this to finally get to the description. So yeah, those are, I don't know, quicker thoughts that I have. Like, what does that back button do? Okay. And then there's a forward button. Neat. Oh, that does your browser's buttons, it looks like. Anyway, you can hover over it though. So this is a box containing a legendary tracer of your choice to incomparable blah blah blah. But it doesn't actually include the full description, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Point is, I might be getting me some mytho coins to get a house like this. We'll see. So this one gives you a little bit of a built-in hill. A very, very finely mowed lawn right here. A little bit more normal grassy here. A couple missing spots of grass around this hill. But you have a sort of upper area here, and oh, that's it. There is a little cave in the back, but ain't much of a cave. It's also pretty open once you get in here, I think. No, that's actually closed off. Not the biggest fan of that cave. Like, if you could do something with it, but it's just in a spot where it doesn't look like you can do much with it. Oh yeah, good old housing hooks. I cannot because I don't own the house, unfortunately. I would have to actually take the time to buy a house, which would require me to go to Isengard Tavern, load up on the LOTRO points and mithril coins and whatevers. You might even be able to get housing writs directly from there, but that's something I could do in the future. If I actually am really considering buying one of these, and again, know people in my kin, maybe who would move to one of these neighborhoods, then that is potentially a video that I would actually have, or something I could do on a live stream. Yeah, this one's, it's not very convenient, but for a nice hidden away house, it's got that going for it. Okay, where is the smaller house though? Here is a smaller house. Just a simple hobbit house here. Honestly, I might be perfectly happy with a small house like this, just because that's less room to get lost and less decoration to do, interior decoration. And considering I know LOTRO has issues with not enough hooks, which is a big problem with our Airborkin house as well. It's very hard to decorate with a limited number of hooks. Well, that's something I'm concerned about. Oh my gosh, it's still easy to get lost though. Doesn't help I'm moving fast, but yikes. There's a reason the Halloween maze, Harvest Math maze is in a hobbit house. Yeah, I don't mind that little simple house. I don't know if there's a great location for one of those. I don't particularly like either of these two locations. Again, convenient, but I don't think I'd necessarily look for convenience in my house. Again, besides Sundergrot being right there, I don't mind this location. Jump! I've been trying to jump. Uh-oh. Gotta see what you can do to navigate this neighborhood. That should get me up, yeah. Oh, what a terrible view. If you like that view, but I do not like that view. So this house is off the list. I think all of these, maybe that one would be okay with me. But I don't think any of these that are along Sundergrot I'm going to like. So ReviewTube, you said you'd like to point out I had other LOTRO YouTubers lied to you. Oh, about how nice the LOTRO community is. You're talking about World Chat, which is dumpster fire, but very entertaining to start chaos. And yeah, I honestly don't pay attention to World Chat. When I talk about the community, I usually refer more externally, or at least outside of World Chat, but it is true when you just have open chat for everybody in the game. It can definitely lead to toxicity and a lot of arguments. Sometimes it's not bad. I can be entertained by World Chat sometimes though, including by some of the arguments. Wait, this is a house? Oh, somebody has this house. An expansive hidden gem. Oh wow. They got some property guards here. This is kind of scary. At least I'm a warden, I can take them. They loaded up on the property guards. Let's go. Oh, there's a tiny house here. Can I go in it? Can I at least fit in this one? Has been used too recently. Do they let me in their house? Do people that have houses completely open like this? Stately deluxe premium house. I definitely, oh wow. Okay, this house has a cave. If this is the house somebody was talking about earlier with the cave, then this one's more impressive. Let's be nosy, see what they have. Oh, I can't. Oh, I've never played Final Fantasy 11. I have played 14. So this one underneath opens into a cave. Does this one open to a cave underneath as well? Here's the hover elf again. He has returned to terrorize Lindelby. Oh, they added this King Crimson tree. Actually, that kind of works here because it kind of hides the sort of ugly area back here that nobody should be traveling to because you might get fully stuck, it looks like. Wonderful. Yeah, don't go back there, guys. You'll have to keep in mind that King Crimson designed to hide some of that ugliness back there. If you go out this house. Okay, this makes me want to go back to this one and go inside and see if there's a cave inside. Because it might be worth that house just to have a cave inside. I like the location of that one better than this one. This one you don't really see Sundergrot as much. You do get a nice view of Wells of Lengthblood though, well, a little bit. I think that's Lindelby out there. So I will go right back to where we came from. That one's got a nice waterfall right there. And compare this other house. I don't know if you can instantly travel there again. I thought there was a menu you could pull up from within the housing neighborhood, but maybe not. Maybe you have to talk to the housing broker or something. The Kin house, I didn't see a cave. Oh, there could be a cave back there. Yeah, maybe we should check that out as well. So that was you, the shiny blade, okay. Thanks for the information, at least. I was like, I saw that little tiny cave and I just assumed that was the cave you were talking about. That wasn't really a cave. That I was not impressed by. Yeah, I generally like, if these are very similar houses, I generally like the travel to this, I'd kind of call it farther away one, the one tucked up in the north here. Yeah, this one, non-kin house, stately house, I guess, deluxe stately, I think it was called. What's this one? This one is... Oh, this one even says 117 interior, 46 exterior. Hooks. Doesn't sound like a lot. So this is a small house as far as I can tell, but it's still tucked away. Maybe the other one only said what it was because it was owned by someone. This is just a stately premium house, but does it have a cave? Because if it does, this might be the house for Louis. Oh, I was gonna say I can't... Oh, this one has a cave, but not water. Oh, I don't like this as much, to be honest. I like the one with water. That's not to say this is bad, but I don't like it as much. It's kind of neat, though. Are those supposed to be other Hobbit houses? It just makes me think goblins. That's all I can think is goblins. There's an orc camp there. Where are the orcs? Kind of wondering if you were able to see any orcs. Yeah, that don't work. I don't see any orcs personally, but... I like that it's different, but if you could swap the smaller house with the larger house in the other area, or I should say swap the the cave with the other house with this cave, so I could put this house's cave into this house, I would probably prefer this house. I also think, the views, I mean, it's not like better than the other one, but yeah, having the pool and the waterfall, I definitely prefer that. But I actually like this view better than the other one. So unfortunately, there's pros and cons of them, which is how I tend to... A lot of housing seems to tend to be to me. And because I see the cons and the compromises, whatever house I would choose, it's one of the reasons I never end up going with a house with all these premium neighborhoods, even though I'm perfectly willing to buy a house. I was actually ready to buy a house with Erebor when that neighborhood was announced, but I did not like that at all. I shouldn't say I didn't like it at all. There were some appealing parts to it, and it was like, you know, it was kind of expansive indoor Erebor housing, but so it had good parts. But I did not like it at all for me to get a house in there in the game. which is why all my characters still live on the streets. Although I had this little section of, actually my kin leader Jimmy's house, I had that to my own at one point. Okay, I haven't gone the other way. Let's go the other way. Let's try the water. Okay, you can ride in the water. That's pretty nice. Don't worry, normal war steed stuff. Best way to navigate. Okay, but what else? Oh wow, it's really hard to jump these fences. There we go. That could be more of a war steed thing. But what I was curious is this house. I think this one you can still see a little bit of Sundergrot. That's me. That is me being very nitpicky though, but this one's not too bad. If I wanted this type of house, this could be a decent area for it. And if I wanted the convenience of being near the NPCs, I like this option for that. It's got a nice tucked away part of the mountain there. Still, I think I would prefer this one or this one for location. That one, yeah, that one I wasn't the biggest fan of, so I might prefer this one. Yeah, extra storage. Like, there are a lot of conveniences with having your own house. Extra storage is one. You can also put your own training dummy there so you don't have to rely on going to your kin house if you have one there with them, and you can do universal ingredient packs, put things in convenient places if you want it for that. With my kin's house, I don't even know where our universal ingredient packs are. I don't think they're in a convenient location. Okay, and this is the kin house. What I was curious though, with cave, I was kind of curious if there was any sort of external cave access over here maybe, because it looked potentially, oh, that's water, that's a pond here. That's pretty neat still though. Like, I wonder with decoration if you can put anything way back here. But you have a little mini forest. Hello, Lucius. I am stuck-ish. There we go. Fishing should work. This character has fishing. The question is, do I have a fishing rod? I think I have a Lebethron one somewhere. Isn't that, or at least used to be one of the good ones, and then you could get better ones in some sort of location or other. Fishing appears to work. Okay, that's in the water. Didn't look like it was in the water, but it's because it went right to the edge. What we're gonna catch? Looks like a nice fish. And I got a char. I assume fishing also works on the inside cave in the other house. That's one of the reasons I like the water there. Even if I don't fish, it seemed like a good fishing spot. Okay, time to try to navigate this ginormous kin house. Okay, there's clearly another floor somewhere. I think there's an upstairs from where I am. It'd be neat if they had windows where you could actually see outside. I imagine that would be tough to get working in the game, but... Alright, I could use stairs anytime now. Are there stairs? Oh, I think I saw some. Here they are. More of a ramp than stairs. I don't know if this bodes too well for having a cave, though. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a cave in the kin house. That seems like that would be a great feature for the kin house if they have it in two of the premium houses, like extra premium deluxe houses. Is that what they're called? Or stately houses. I think one was stately, one was deluxe stately. Seems like that'd be something that fits well with the kin house. But yeah, I think that's the full neighborhood for the most part. It's unfortunate they built it so close to Sundergrot, but I guess what can you do? I like the way that it's off the map too. It really makes it feel hidden. But yeah, I don't know. I'd really have to consider and just think about different options for if I were to get a house here, which one I would want and why would I want it. Because if I'd want it for convenience, well, one of those two small houses would be perfect. But if I wanted it for an actual house to enjoy, I like these two locations the most. And then which one would I want of those two? Probably go ahead and get this one because I like the interior. It is larger, which I actually don't like. But I liked the cave portion of this house and the little bit of exterior area around the yard more than this house, but I did like the view to the southeast that would be from this house, as well as it being a smaller house. Otherwise, the Kin house is pretty massive and easy to get lost, but I prefer it over our current Erebor house situation, so I will bring that up to my Kin again. Shiny Blade, thank you for joining the stream. I'm about to wrap it up as well, as I also have to run here soon. So I am going to go to, I don't know, I'll just keep this character here, why not? What is that? Actually, oh, is that a house? And oh, is that the tree that we saw earlier? It might be. Looks very purple though. I don't know what that is, but you do get a nice view of Sundergrot. I don't mind the distant view as much. I'm just not the biggest fan of that architecture they have in the Gundabad, like this Dwarven area, general chain of the northern Misty Mountains here. But yeah, I'm fairly impressed with this neighborhood. Definitely more things that I like about it than I perhaps initially expected. So potentially something to look forward to, me finally getting a house. Don't know what my cat's complaining about. I think she's ready for lunch. Because she always meows when she wakes up, then eats like 2 bites of food, then goes back to sleep. Anyway, I think that will be a wrap for the stream. So far, overall impressions with the class revamps. Better than before for both the Beorning and Guardian. I definitely think there could still be some pretty major improvements done to the Redline Guardian. And the Beorning was working pretty well. I'd have to play it more to get like a really deeper dive into the gameplay, but I quite enjoyed both the blue and Redline Beorning compared to before. So that was great to see. And for the Redline Guardian, I will say the gameplay was more enjoyable, but there seemed to be either a lot of buggy stuff with the L line, or again, them not being clear on if bleeds are supposed to be transferred or spread, radiated from some of the L line effects. So that's something we might have to see later, but again, it was enjoyable from just a baseline gameplay perspective. What else? Oh, we didn't get to the Forester event. Maybe that's something I'll get to next week, assuming there's another beta next week. I kind of forgot about that, to be honest, and with me being out of time, I can't get to the event, and I don't think there's much with just like baseline crafting that we really get to see here. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this stream and enjoyed me finally getting to doing some of the update 37 content in the beta, and I'm really looking forward to this update and seeing what it brings in its final form, whenever that is, hopefully later this month. And if you did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing for more, and thanks for joining, chatting, and watching, everyone.